Hey everybody, welcome to On the Homefront. John Murphy here. We're very happy to share time with you once a week here on WILI. You might be catching us live at AM 1400 or 95.3 on the digital FM for the live radio part, so hello, have a great day. But we're also recording all these shows for YouTube. WILI has a YouTube channel for all the afternoon shows, so you can catch a show anytime and always check in to find out the latest information. The shows from today will be posted in a couple of days, so our guests can get a link and they can share their story in their own media as well to help them with their promotions as well. We have another busy show today. We're going to have an update at the end of the show with the Connecticut Tenants Union. We've been covering them since last fall, and we're going to have Luke back with an update. There's been some very big activity happening about landlords and tenants and legal law changes. So we'll talk about it at the end of the show. For the second part, we're going to have some folks back from the Latino Chamber of Commerce of Windham. We're going to have Luiso here today with a local business person. And we're going to open very happily with the Windham Theatre Guild. They have a new show coming up opening April 5th. It's called Puffs. And we have the director here and two cast members. We'll introduce them and get right underway. Again, the show's opening right here in town on April 5th. We have the director with us here. His name is Marcevan Costanzo, or Mark Costanzo. He's the director sitting right in the middle there. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks so much for having us.
You bet. It's great to have you guys in the house. Also, we have next to me Aneudy Corchado. He is part of the cast. He plays a few different characters, but mainly he's going to be here, and he's going to be playing the character of Ernie Mac.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, Ernie. Que pasa?
Que pasa?
And also on the end, we have Andie Feder with us. She plays several characters as well in the show, and her main character is Susie Bones. So welcome to the studio. It's good to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
All righty, so we're set to roll, and I'm going to have the director tell us, what was it that made you want to pick this play out of all the choices? Mm-hmm. What drew you to the story? And then the fun part of you is how you orchestrate the pieces and how you decide to mix it all together.
Absolutely. So to start off, what was really fun about this was, first I got to give a shout out to my friends at Goshen Players, because they were the ones that originally introduced me to the play Puffs. I ended up directing this as a stage reading back in 2022. And as soon as I did that, just absolutely fell in love with the piece, the energy behind it, the wacky characters, the incorporation of the story, and some of the messages that are even delivered that not a lot of people may be aware of. But it was just so much fun to do that. I'm like, I really have to bring this to the main stage. And fortunately, pitched that to Windham Theatre Guild,
right.
And they were able to pick that up, and I'm very grateful for that. So for right now, though, as far as implementing the story and whatnot, we just got a very solid production team together that has a lot of fun props and tools that we're using to our advantage. A lot of lights, a lot of great sound effects, a lot of wacky props and like puppetry that you may see all throughout, scattered throughout. And it's just a never resting, never relentless piece that just comes at you with energy, passion. Everyone is going to enjoy this.
Now, I think from what you're saying, too, part of the surprise is the writing.
Yes.
Because the messages are not in your face. They're not overt, maybe. Mm-hmm. I'm not aware of the storyline, but they're probably not obviously preaching. But through the writing and the behavior, something is a takeaway. Mm-hmm. Can you give a couple of takeaways without blowing the story? Where are they traveling? Because there's so many ways they can go.
Sure, absolutely. So our main character Wayne is introduced to this certain school of magic. He receives a letter and is introduced to the house, and the house that he is sorted into, which is Puffs, and where we get the title from. And the Puffs, as Andie and Aneudy can attest to, very high energy, very happy-go-lucky and good-natured people, but also a little awkward, if you will. So you get a lot of great characters from this, and the messages are delivered from that is just really, like, Wayne's quest is to become the best boy wizard that he can be, to be the hero of the school, as he's like read in many a book and many a stories that he's seen. He wants to be that hero, that protagonist that everyone loves and adores. But the message that we may get to is his journey through that and his self-realization and understanding where his place is in the world.
Right. Something interesting about this this setup that was a treat for me is these folks are playing multiple characters. So you're talking multiple personality disorder types here. Multiple leaguers. I'm sure you argue with yourself all the time.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
How do you approach a fast-acting storyline, and you have to mentally shapeshift pretty quickly from one to the other? So how do you prepare for that, and what made you draw so much to the main character? You know, and for you, I guess the character was going to be Susie Bones. So what drew you to that?
Well, I think in a way, all of the different characters we are the main characters of their own story. And I kind of think that's one of the takeaways of this whole production as well, that we all are the main characters of our own story, as wacky and individual as they are. So I personally love how like energetic and fast-paced it is. And so there are like little changes I do to my wardrobe or outfit or hair that gets me into each individual character. We were actually, me and Marcevan were having a discussion about that.
Some device. Some device.
And he's like, I don't know how you do that between the things, but it helps me get into character. For this character, it's ponytails specifically. That's for my Myrtle. But it's each of the characters are so individual, and everything that's being said is so fast-paced and quirky, it's kind of hard not to fall into them. Like Aneudy, for example, he has the most amazing different voices for his different characters, and it's a process, but that's part of what makes this show so extraordinarily fun.
So Ernie Mac.
That is me.
You have several characters. So how do you plan for this variation, and what drew you to this one character out of all of them?
Well, luckily, the show that I was in before this
What show is that?
Oh, it's a Celtic mythology project.
Wow.
Out in Windsor, and there I was able to play 10 different characters.
Wow.
All right.
Going into this, I was like, oh, I know what I'm getting myself into. And I was so excited, especially being a pup. I grew up seeing a lot of pups on TV and some very iconic characters. And, I've taken the quiz, and I've been able to find myself that, I pretty much fit the description of a pup. I lost myself. What was the question again?
There you go.
That's the pup to a
True
T.
puff mentality.
He's testing the host. Are you listening to me? I'm saying about how do you juggle multiple, and then what drew you to Ernie Mac as the main one? Out of all the choices, you're spending more time as Ernie.
Oh, yes. Aside from Ernie Mac, being able to play 6-7 other characters, being able to change my voice from English to Irish, and being a Spanish speaker, sometimes my Spanish accent comes into play.
I can imagine.
So it makes it a challenge for me to really get into my British accent or my Irish accent. But I have fun either way. It's I wanted Ernie Mac. I don't know. The name sticked out to me. It reminded me of Bernie Mac.
I thought of that right away. Thought of that right away too. Yeah.
And like I said, the names that came afterwards, like the other roles that I get to play while being Ernie Mac, I was like, I want these roles. I want to be able to play. I feel like Ernie Mac is a very straight character.
Right.
Very supportive. Very. He's pretty much the best. He's simply the best of all.
There you go.
Better than all the rest.
Better than all the rest.
A lot of arguing in the rehearsals, I can tell. Now, the Windham Theatre Guild's right across the street up here, downtown Willimantic, Main Street. This play is opening April 5th. It runs through the 12th, so you can go to the website and get tickets, all the different shows there.
I think it should be the 14th.
14th?
Yeah.
Oh, that's on page 2, of course.
Oh, yes. There is a page 2.
Yes. But the website's there. It goes to the 14th, and there's a couple of matinees at 2, and then the rest are at 7:30. Now, with the sound effects,
Yes.
some of the let's get into Foley. Is some of the sound effects, I imagine, maybe pre-recorded? Are they all live? How do you actually integrate live and pre-recorded sounds? Because it's fast-paced, so someone's mixing away, right?
Absolutely.
How does that work?
So in the process, we did look for like a couple of fun sound effects online. Those are not like a copyright, obviously.
Sure.
Actually, be surprised how much is at your disposal for that. I was really happy to see all that was offered, and a lot of the talent that's out there that plays great background music and great canned sound effects as well, that just really livens up the show. Not that you guys aren't lively or anything, but it just takes it to that next level.
It makes it more real.
Indeed. And a lot of fun that we had as well is there's a couple of moments in the script where it does allow you to make your own pre-recordings, as you were saying. Aneudy and I were able to record some voiceovers that he has as the second headmaster, where that kind of adds, and it's a lot of fun because he'll be on stage as Ernie Mac, but he'll be reacting to his own voice as second headmaster,
nice.
Which just adds a whole nother layer to the story.
Sure.
But it was a lot of fun doing those pre-recordings. We actually have one of our friends and cast members, AJ, who plays the narrator, actually ended up recording a parody of "We Are the Champions," so everyone will get to hear that as well in the presentation.
They'll know right away where that's coming from.
Absolutely, and you guys haven't heard it yet, but
I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's absolute gold. Absolute gold.
lovely.
I cannot wait.
Yes.
The soundboard guy is going to be a big friend of ours for the show, but it's great.
100%,
really.
yeah.
The sounds and lights and the costumes and the set. The set is incredible. Everything is going to come together in such a explosively fun way.
Indeed.
It's a very hilarious show, and it's very fast paced, and it's just so much to take in, but so much,
Just entertaining.
just entertaining.
Yeah.
Now, there's something I noticed in the title that caught my eye.
Sure.
It said Puff's 2-act edition, which implies there are other editions. Because the play's from Matt
Cox.
Matt Cox is the writer.
Absolutely.
And, of course, you've got to follow the script pretty closely. But can you explain the two versions or what it is about the 2-act edition?
Oh, yeah. So the 2-act edition is really the originally written story, which incorporates more of the suggestive material, if you will, because in the original source there is some suggestive language, some indication of students understanding themselves, if I may say that.
Verily unto you.
Indeed.
Yes.
This 2-act edition kind of takes it to that kind of level of comedy. There are other editions out there, and the family-friendly edition for all wizards, if you will. That's usually played in high schools. If a lot of high schools in the area have been adapting Puffs as well. Theirs is more the family-friendly version.
I'm sure the high schoolers will love the other version, but that's what they get in the school.
Indeed, yes.
But that double entendre is loaded with potential there, yeah. So how long, just typically now, every play has its own story, but we have a couple minutes left. How long did it take to put this together from when you decided to do it and you start the rehearsals? And how much time do people have to know goes into their fast-paced hour and a half?
Well,
90 minutes?
I mean, the good news with a story like this, it's all every actor and every production team member, Michelle, or props organizer, Deb and Nora, or costumers, they're all basically, like, we have meetings and we have we organize what is expected, but everyone's pretty much on their own journey as far as creativity is concerned.
Right.
That's what we wanted to support with our actors, to really get to know their own characters and to come through the first couple of rehearsals, first month, just really getting to know and experimenting, because playing around with that, including like the costumes as well, playing with different colors, different pieces, could really bring out more to the show than any one of us could have guessed. And after getting that fun part in, it's all refinement, repetition, and we're ready to do the show.
And timing, right?
Indeed.
Always.
All right, so this is the Windham Theatre Guild Puffs, opening April 5th, running through the 14th. WindhamTheatreGuild.org is the website to get tickets. I wish you a great run with good luck, and we'll look forward to having the theater back for the next show. I wish you all well.
Much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we're going to take a short break here on the Homefront and talk about the Latino Chamber of Commerce of Windham, and then later on we'll talk about the Connecticut Tenants Union. So stay right here. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back live on the Homefront. We're very happy to have you with us here once a week on WILI. Next week's program is going to be busy again. We're going to talk about the next Repair Cafe coming up on April 13th here in town. We'll also talk with artist Phoebe Godfrey. She has a new exhibit coming in the Carey Gallery in town called From Ideas to Art and Exploration. And also we're going to have an update from the Willimantic Food Co-op. So that's for next week's program. Right now, though, I'm happy to continue our series looking at the good work of the Latino Chamber of Commerce of Windham. And we have two guests here today. Sitting next to me is a local business person that's been here for a few years. Her name is Tamara Riera. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here today. She's going to share her story about how she started her own food business. And also next to her is a Luiso Morales Torres. He is the marketing coordinator at Click, the commercially licensed cooperative kitchen. He'll come back once a month throughout the year with Dionisi Torres, and they'll be bringing in local businesses that are starting out to show you the path to being your own entrepreneur. So, Luis, good to have you back in the house, too.
Thank you for having me, and we're always happy to be here.
Now, I know you're helping Click with all their business people. How many businesses are currently working there as a team? How many are out there?
So at the moment, I believe we have around 30 businesses.
Oh, fantastic.
We have a waiting list of around 39 businesses waiting to get into the, commercial kitchen. So we're working on that.
Wow. Congratulations. 30 and 39. I remember talking to people many years ago when this was on paper.
I know.
Phoebe and Tina.
Yes.
And here they are, 30 in and 30 waiting. That's great. So anyway, the website is clickwillimantic.org. You can learn a lot more than we have time for today, but you can learn about all these businesses. And Tamara's here. She has Jay's Food Truck based at Click. So congratulations on getting into business.
Thank you so much. It's been a experience for sure.
That's a polite way to put it, right? It is.
It's an experience,
It is. It's serious stuff. Can you share your story without losing us in all the details? The thing I like to share is from idea to reality. How did you make that happen?
I would say my wife actually has always had a dream of having a food truck. And when COVID hit, we moved back to be around family and things like that. Right. And we started just kind of selling trays and trying to push that out. And her dad kind of looked at us and was just kind of like, listen, you guys want to run and I want to help you guys with this. And he helped us. We ended up getting into Click, which with a pop-up, just everything, our flat top and everything, did their Thursday. And after a few months, we were on the road looking for our first food truck. And we've been at Click ever since.
So, Luis, could you tell us, if somebody came to you with an idea, how would they prepare themselves to learn what they need to know to do it legally with Safe Serve and all the things to make food safe and healthy?
So at the moment, we actually have a coordinator at Click that you will meet up with her and she'll guide you through the whole process until you're actually able to be on the road. We're also doing the one-to-ones with the Latino Chamber. So basically, if you want to join or you want to have your business running and established, you can just contact us, me or Dionisi, and we can guide you through the whole process.
Yeah. So So walk us through now, after you had the approvals, what kind of training did you have, or how did you go all the way with the steps to really be able to expand the way you are? Because you're selling different kinds of food.
Yes, we are. We actually serve comfort street food, and my wife is the one that's been in the restaurant industry for most of her life, you know, I believe going on 10 years.
Okay.
And she just kind of took in what she's learned from other people at her jobs, other chefs. She's had to do kitchen management, where she's had to go and train in other states and things like that, and she kind of just took bits and parts of everyone in her life that she's experienced and kind of just took that with her to start off this business. And when we got to Click, it was more or less, she already was in the kitchen, so she knew everything, all the steps that had to be done.
Right.
And when we got in there, they were just so helpful. You know, they sit you down, they talk about a business plan, they talk about what you need to do next and what is necessary for you to take that extra step. And they were just very helpful with us in those moments.
Yeah. I remember in the early days, the whole issue was folks would like to make food at home that they could serve to their family. It's excellent, healthy food, but legally you can't do it unless it's made in a certified kitchen for public health. And most people can never afford a safe serve kitchen. It's too demanding. That's why Click is there.
Exactly.
Somebody may need the place maybe 20 hours a week. Not everybody needs it all the time, right? So you share it.
Yes, we do.
And you coordinate the time. Can you talk about how that works and people use as much as they need, but they're not over their head in debt already?
So they basically, you go through the same process with Denise, and you can schedule any time that you would like to. I know that we have affordable prices.
Yes.
I'm not. What
I would say, so our prices from what we've looked at, because we don't live in this town. We are from this town, but we moved out of town. And us looking around, I would say Click is the most affordable commercial kitchen around us. You know, they actually work hard, and the ladies in that office care so much.
Yeah,
and, you know, they like to ensure that we're all doing great. You know, they always like to ensure that we're working at the best of our ability and they can push us forward. So they're very understanding, and their prices aren't as tremendous as other places are.
Yeah. Plus, you have the miracle of having a place to go.
Exactly, and that's
They're
a
still hard to
blessing.
find, yeah.
Yes, it is a blessing because if anything, there's one in, I think, Massachusetts. There's a small one maybe in Hartford, but it's very rare to find a commercial kitchen in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I've heard that all of them have like a long waiting list at the moment.
Yes, they do.
So we just hope for more commercial kitchens because there's a lot of demand right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people is trying to get into the food industry.
Yeah. Speaking of food, this is a question I love to ask people that work in the business is, with the food you do and the menu you have, how do you get your ingredients? Where do you go for healthy food that is not just a local grocery store? So that's the challenge.
I say so. We do Restaurant Depot a lot. There are places if we are doing things that aren't usual and normal plates, we'll, search up on Instacart actually and just look up what we can find. And they'll always point us in the right direction of what ingredients we're looking for, and we'll go and travel towards them, I would say mostly for like Spanish meals, we'll go to like places like Seatown, we're trying to go out there, but it's mostly Restaurant Depot, BJ's.
Yeah.
Aldi's, we love Aldi's. They're local, and they use local, products, and they're affordable and things like that. So, but we don't, go
So
for
you
it.
shop on your phone like everything else sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
honestly, and it makes it a little easier because as a business owner, especially with food, you kind of are spending a good 10 hours just shopping. Looking around, running around, especially if you can't find it at Restaurant Depot or BJ's or Aldi's, you're driving, 30, 45 minutes just to find one product. So I will say Instacart has helped a little bit.
I know some people I've talked to, they go to New Haven sometimes.
Yep.
New Jersey, depending on the ingredients or this time of the year, the seasons. So, the whole business thing is so challenging. What was a big surprise that you didn't anticipate? And maybe you could share, what was the biggest challenge out of all the things you had to do, all the steps? What was the biggest single challenge, and what was a surprise for you?
I would say the biggest challenge for us, well, for me personally, maybe she'll have a different answer. For me personally, it was getting into all of the places that these food trucks have already inquired with. we were just going on about a few months with our food truck, and we were trying to get into breweries and wineries, just kind of to pick up and grab people's attention towards us.
It's a good combination.
Yes, exactly.
Food and beer works.
They love it. And, people love food trucks. It's a fad. So everyone, once you pull up to a brewery and there's a food truck, they're like, oh, I don't have to order food. I can walk outside, grab something, come inside, drink a beer, have a glass of wine. But that was the biggest, challenge for us, because a lot of places are just so set with the food trucks that they have that it took us a while to get in there. So our first year, we decided to stay open through winter, which is allowing us to have the time to go out and reach out to people, because everyone else is closed.
It's a challenge.
So they reached out to us, and driving that food truck in the snow. I mean, I don't do it, but bless her heart, because it's not easy.
That's tough.
Yeah, it's very tough. So I would say that was the biggest challenge. I'm trying to think of a surprise. I would just say how supportive people are when you are pulling up to places, and people are they enjoy your food, and they come out and they talk to you about it. Your food is great. That was delicious. I haven't had something like that in a while. And not that I didn't expect that, but you don't really hear about people kind of praising you for what you do, So it felt great to have people. Nice? It feels great. It feels fantastic.
It seems easy to complain these days.
Exactly,
But
so
a compliment is sweet.
Yep. And then experiencing that, it was something that I really did not expect.
Yeah. Like we're doing the show now kind of in mid-March, coming into spring, so there'll be a lot more outside things all year long, right through maybe October, right? Mm-hmm. So again, maybe Luis, before we close, just give us a quick picture of the Latino Chamber of Commerce. This is a fairly recent organization, last few months. What is the vision for the people involved? And it seems like a perfect town to have one, that's for sure.
Definitely. It's been really challenging putting this together, but me and the NEC are really passionate about it, and we love to help our community. We have planned a workshop now for April 5th. They're going to basically talk and guide you on how to purchase your first home or property. And there's also going to be a broker coming down. She's going to talk about how to fix your credit or how to, grow your credit. So we're going to have that completely free. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook as the Latino Chamber. You can DM us, and, if you want to be part of the workshop, you just gotta send us a message.
Yeah, no, it's great to have this group, and there's so many people here. Once they know there's a place to go, it's going to be a magnet like Click was. Mm-hmm. So that really bodes well for a good year for both of you. So thank you for being here today. It's great to have you. I wish you a good year ahead for you.
Thank you.
And we'll have you back in April, and maybe DNEC once a month. We'll get an update on what's happening, okay?
Definitely. Thank you for having us.
All right, great. We'll see you again then. All righty, well, time is flying by. We're going to take a short musical break, and then we're going to come back and talk about the Connecticut Tenants Union. 1966 in England, one of the great early blues rock bands, the Yardbirds. This is a very young Jeff Beck. Check this classic out. We'll send it out to the U.S. Congress. Over, under, sideways, down. Okay, hope you enjoyed that from the Yardbirds. Oh, what a classic tune, Over, Under, Sideways, Down. It really fits today. It seems like our Congress is full of people who look at each other as enemies these days. You're either on my side or you're on the wrong side, and nothing's really moving. But something that is moving is tenants. They're finally organizing, and they're figuring out how do they counter the pressures from a changing economic model of profit-making that sometimes hurts people along the way. The Connecticut Tenants Union is here. They're organizing around the state. And every month or so, a month and a half, we have a conversation with one of the vice presidents of the group. His name is Luke Melonakos-Harrison. Welcome back to the show. It's good to have you here, Luke.
Hi, John. Thanks. Glad to be here.
You bet. So since you're one of the founders and people are still learning about the idea of a tenant union, and there are a lot of people worried about their rent these days, how did you guys first come together, and what's your hope for the next year?
Yeah, so we first came together just organizing around, in the initial phase, it was really around basic conditions issues, health and safety hazards.
Right.
Apartment buildings where people are, faithfully paying rent every month, but still dealing with just hazardous conditions and poor living conditions. So that was really the impetus, and that was in the middle of the pandemic, really, that took off, 2020, 2021. And over the past several years, we've been figuring out how to do this and how to organize effectively and our own kind of internal structure and methodology and all of that. And so it was last summer, that we really formalized as a statewide tenant union affiliating about 15 chapters across the state right now. And the basic premise is, that people who are all paying rent to the same person or company have a shared interest in a shared situation, and therefore if they combine their power, they can actually have a voice and a seat at the negotiating table with the landlord to get better treatment, better conditions, and more affordable rent.
Right. We started communicating in the fall, and there's a really powerful story happening in Putnam with the Cargill Mills group. They had horrible lead problems, and they were ignored for a long time. They went to the local government in town. They didn't really get any relief. They went to the owner and the manager. So they finally did their own testing at great expense, and now the EPA is involved. The Department of Health is involved, saying, how did they get that bad for so long that you have kids testing for lead in this day and age? And those are some of the failures that you find out about. And if you try to do it alone, it's very hard, isn't it?
It sure is. And a lot of times people go to their local governments and, file a complaint with their local health department, and are surprised that even our local agencies that are intended to protect us in terms of health and safety sometimes either have very little enforcement mechanisms that they even can use in residential, rental situations, or in other cases are just not very responsive and not very accessible to people. And so that, people try to use the existing mechanisms to hold their landlords accountable. And sometimes even that is really difficult to make progress in as an individual. And that's why a lot of people turn to unions, because there's more power in numbers.
Right. And it's expensive to fight, The whole thing about local government, sometimes you find out things that you thought were common sense aren't written into the regulations. And if they're not on paper, even if they want to act, they can't. And then you have some officials who have no spines. They don't want to deal with being uncomfortable, that they have power, that they can make things happen, but they don't want to be uncomfortable. So they do very little, and people suffer for it. Anyway, something is happening now in the session that I guess people are happy about is the Just Cause Eviction Protection Bill. Can you talk about what's happening where you're vulnerable when your lease is up and you've been a good tenant with no problems, you might still get thrown out?
Yeah, this is something that we've just sort of seen and experienced across the state, and it's why we picked this as our priority issue this session, where tenants who, again, are faithfully paying rent, have in many cases lived in the same apartment for a long time. They're very established in their community and would, consider that apartment to be their real home.
Yeah.
And yet, often what will happen is, a property will change hands, for example, and a new owner will maybe have promised their investors that they were going to get a higher rent out of that apartment complex, and that means that they have to kick everyone out who lives there and has lived there for a long time so that they can bring in higher income, higher rent-paying tenants. And, the consequences of that in people's lives and communities can be just really devastating. And another common situation that we've experienced a lot is individuals who are reaching out to their health department, for example, over health and safety issues, or filing Fair Rent Commission complaints, or even just kind of starting conversations with neighbors about what if we got organized and approached the landlord together. Those tend to be the tenants that get targeted with no-fault evictions.
Right.
Because, when a landlord or a landlord company is trying to run their business in a certain way that basically depends on people accepting subpar conditions, unsafe conditions, but still continuing to pay rent, anyone who kind of rocks that boat and shakes things up, it's kind of part of the business model to get them out. So that's why we're fighting for an expansion of an existing protection that covers folks who are over 62 or have a registered disability in larger buildings.
That's right.
We're trying to get that expanded to cover more people because of what we're seeing and experiencing in the community and in our tenant unions, which is no-fault evictions being really abused and used to sustain this kind of predatory business model.
So, folks, what you want to do is track the Senate Bill 143. I believe that's still the current number.
Yes, it is.
Senate Bill 143, the Just Cause Eviction Protection Bill. That's in the hopper right now. The session is wrapping up in the next month or so. So have you heard any news about how it's getting through the grinder, so to speak?
Sure. I mean, we're really pleased that at least on the Senate side, we've gotten commitments from the majority leaders that they want to make this a priority for the session. And I think that just reflects the overall sense of urgency around the housing crisis that tenants in particular are facing. So we're really pleased by that. What comes next in terms of what happens in the House is yet to be seen. I mean, we've got a good amount of support there as well, but we do know that a number of legislators are still making up their minds. I think that for context, it's helpful to know that tenant issues have, for a long time, for several decades now, really not been something that tenants themselves have been organized around to advocate for. It's largely been on the landlord side trying to roll back some of the existing protections that tenants have, and then often kind of legal aid attorneys in the Capitol trying to keep the protections that tenants do have from being taken away. And what we've seen in the past couple of years has been real momentum from the tenant side of getting organized and advocating for what we need, for protections that we're pushing for. So I think all that to say, I think there are a number of legislators who are still making up their mind on this issue because they haven't necessarily been approached by organized tenants in the same way in past years.
Right.
And so, just what I would love for anyone who is listening and who is interested in this issue or cares about this issue and just cares about really stability and security for tenants in their community, whether they're a tenant or not, that now it's actually a really pivotal time to reach out to your legislator and let them know how you feel about this issue and help them, make up their mind, because I do think a lot of our lawmakers are currently undecided.
Yes, and that means they're approachable, they're open possibly. Also, the website, if I'm correct, is cttenantsunion.org, right?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
if you get to that website, cttenantsunion.org, in fact, we've had folks from the Willimantic. There's a union here in town at the mills, and we mentioned the Cargill Mills up in Putnam. They're on strike right now. They're on the verge now of being evicted, supposedly, because they're on a rent strike because of the health problems. So there's another example that I want Luke to talk about. When the company that owns your building lives out of state, and there's a situation happening in East Hartford with a company in New Jersey, and it's an absentee landlord nightmare. Can you talk about how that case is moving forward and what's happening to those people?
Yeah, absolutely. So this company is called Stratus Equities, although I will say that they've changed their name a few times over the years, but with some digging, we've realized it's actually the same small group of owners, but changing the company name largely to avoid accountability and liability.
It's like the mob. It's like the mob.
Yeah, it really functions like that, frankly. It does. So their current name is Stratus Equities, and they own a whole bunch of properties in East Hartford, Manchester, and Waterbury. And so far, one of their buildings that's got 65 apartments in East Hartford has unionized, formed a union, and approached them earlier this month in March, letting them know that they are unionizing and that they seek to negotiate for better conditions, leases, and stable rent. And, I will say that already since then we've been reached out to by a number of other tenants who rent from that same company who are also seeking to organize. So we are, excited about the momentum that we're building. And, I think that the fact that the owner lives in New Jersey, in one sense, is a challenge because, we'll have to figure out how to really put pressure on him, even though he's not in the state of Connecticut.
Right.
But we're confident that just by simply organizing enough of the tenants who rent from the same landlord, we will be able to really put pressure and honestly pose a financial threat, because at the end of the day, the whole business model of the sort of slumlord business depends on people just continuing to pay rent no matter what conditions they're living in.
Yeah.
But with enough people on the same page and acting collectively, we can shift things. So
that's the hope.
That's the whole idea. Yep.
If the options are limited, then you've got to figure out how to leverage other choices because you can't do it all alone. And I've talked to other people too. It sounds really naive, like you're Pollyanna, to think that you can invest in property with goodwill and do good practices. You earn a fair income and you use some of the money for your profit. Some of the money you keep the building up for the future, and that's part of the gig. And sometimes people game it, and then, depending on the local rules, the regulations in a town, how aggressive or supportive the town leaders are, people are stuck in the middle. So I'm so happy people like you are trying to share information. And we have a few minutes left, Luke, while you have us. There's one thing that you mentioned, a success story with the company Ocean Management, where they've decided to cooperate a little bit and not fight so much, right?
Well, it certainly took a fight to get them to that point.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. But the good news is that all the fighting that the Blake Street Tenant Union did, particularly last year, and it's I remember when I was on back then, we were kind of in the middle of it at the time, but it took fighting back against the threat of eviction and against the threat of no fault eviction specifically, because that was exactly the tool that Ocean Management was trying to use to intimidate people, pressure them into either accepting a rent increase that they could not afford or just moving out to avoid the court process of an eviction. We had to fight back against eviction, which as a tenant is really kind of the scariest thing to face in your housing situation. But the good news is we were able to do that. We were able to get them to back off of those evictions that they were threatening, come back to the negotiating table, and after several more months of back and forth and negotiating and then haggling over the legal details, etc., I'm very happy to announce that we were able to reach an agreement between Ocean Management and the entire Blake Street Tenant Union. So that covers all of their members as a union, which is significant both because those tenants now have the guarantee of a 2.5-year lease with stable and moderate rent increase amounts, and also real significant improvements in the maintenance and how they're being treated by the management company. They actually have their own separate line on the maintenance number of the company. There's kind of the generic Ocean Management tenant line, and then there's the Blake Street Tenant Union phone number because of the amount of pressure that they put on the company. And it's also just a milestone for victory for tenants in general. It's a victory for tenants in general because it proves that essentially tenant unions can get the goods, can get it done, can win the kind of stability and respect and good living conditions that causes people to, the desire for which causes people to organize in the first place. So it's historic, honestly. We don't know of any other collective agreement between a tenant union and a landlord ever before in Connecticut. We know of only a handful across the country. So it's something really special is happening in Connecticut right now.
Well, I'm glad you're sharing the good news, and that's where I'm happy to share the airwaves with you to let people know, because a lot of people are stressed out, and they're still learning about the idea of a union. They may not think that there's one like this out there, and you're getting the word out. I just want to mention again, the website is cttenantsunion.org, and we'll try to get Luke back here for an update next month, along with people from the Windham area who have been doing their work as a union, and the mills, and also we'll see what's happening with the situation with the horrible lead problem up in Putnam at Cargo Mills. So, Luke, thank you very much for joining us this week. We'll look forward to having you back again. I wish you a good spring and a good year ahead.
Thanks so much, John. Really appreciate it.
You bet. Take care. We'll have you back again in April. Take care.
Sounds good. Take care.
All righty. Well, that's about it now. Time flies here on the Homefront each week. If you'd like to join us in the studio, the doors are open. All you have to do is use an email, john@humanartsmedia.com. We'll have you here to share your story any Wednesday. These shows are always on YouTube, too. If you go to the WILI Radio YouTube channel, all the shows are available to you 24/7 on any device. So have a great week ahead, and we'll see you next time. Take care.